Dr. H. Wainhouse is the Distinguished Research Professor of Theology, Law, Culture, and Archaeology at Faith International University and Seminary in Tacoma, Washington. He and his wife, Irina, have taught and directed many tours in the Mediterranean and Middle East, including Israel, Greece, Egypt, Jordan, Italy, and Turkey, particularly with the Biblical Archaeological Society. Dr. House has taught biblical and theological studies at several universities and seminaries during a teaching career of over 50 years and has written 150 articles and 50 books, including the Evangelical Dictionary of World Religions, The Jesus Who Never Lived, Exposing False Christs and Finding the Real Jesus, the Zondervan Handbook of Biblical Archaeology, Israel, the Land and the People, an Evangelical Affirmation of God's Promises. And editor of the Nelson NKJV Study Bible and Nelson New Illustrated Bible Commentary. Dr. House is the general editor of the Evangelical Exegetical Commentary Series, 44 volumes, with logos, Faith Life. It is the knowledge amassed from these experiences, along with the assistance of biblical scholars at a variety of universities and seminaries throughout the world, that provides the information contained in his latest project, the House Visual Study Bible Online. Thank you for joining Archaeology and the Lands of the Bible with Dr. H. Wainhouse.
Greetings and salutations to all. We have arrived and we have both two Dons and a Wayne in the room. Yeah, so how's that work? Dr. House is in the house.
Yes.
Well, it's good to be here again. There's so much to talk about. It's just hard sometimes to know where to start and where to stop because there's some great finds that have been found in recent years. If we've sort of run out of time, or if we have enough time, we might even do a couple things that I didn't do last week. But other than that, we'll keep moving. And when I say here we're going to talk about the later life and ministry of Jesus in Jerusalem, I'm talking about that life that basically went toward the very end. A lot of people don't realize that Jesus, when he held off from going, for example, to deal with Lazarus in his sickness, knowing he was going to die, that was actually just not too long after the time at Caesarea Philippi. And from then, you actually began to get foaming Pharisees and others who wanted to put him to death. Right after that time, because they wanted to get Jesus as well as Lazarus, because he was bringing so many people to Jesus as Messiah. So there's a lot of things in the latter life. It won't be it's more like weeks instead of months or years, but very strategic things happen during that period of time. And we can't cover it all tonight, but we'll do as much as we can. It's any particular questions that has been raised from recent looking at the text and the archaeology?
Going once, going twice.
Sold.
Well, okay, everybody knows it all. All right. The later life and ministry of Jesus. Some wonderful things happen during this time. So if we can move. First of all, we move to the Pool of Bethesda. Most of Jesus's ministry was actually in the Galilee in up north. It wasn't really what we think about being around like Bethlehem or Jerusalem and so forth. Most of it was in the north. And he comes to Jerusalem. He encounters tremendous. Leave that where it is. You find tremendous actions against him by certain people with the Sanhedrin, the priestly caste, people that saw their jobs maybe being erased, I guess. I don't know. One doesn't know all their reasons for raising against Jesus, and some of them probably did so because they misunderstood Scripture and they went against Jesus because I thought he was an apostate. Mm-hmm. You find some of that in the Talmudic material, where it indicates that the rabbis at later times, some of them thought that Jesus wasn't so bad, but he just got mixed up. And so there's a lot of different things that take place as you move even past the first century. Mm. Even if you take that statement of Josephus, there's a couple of statements in Josephus, who's the major Jewish historian at the end of the first century. he said some fairly good things about Jesus, even. Some things I think were added, and you can see one or two of my books where I talk about that. But some things were added probably by Christians later who copied some of that. And as it got copied by somebody else, it included it. But even Josephus, others, not everybody was against Jesus. It was a very tense period of time before AD 70. What I'm saying here in the Pool of Bethesda, it's really a fascinating place, and we're going to look at some stuff. One thing I mentioned, I think, at an earlier time, and if I didn't, I should have, and that is that you had actually a religion of health that was believed on by many people who were Jews, and it came out of Hephaestus and the various thinking on being healed by the things that are going on with the Hippocratic Oath and so forth that we see later. And so, where did that come from? Well, so you have to realize that it's only within a couple hundred years when you had this great Greek influence. Greek influence was amazing. I mean, these people, they went around the world with ideas and language and practices that enveloped the world. And much of the world continued to be very Greekized in many ways, if we can use that term. And so that's why I look at Bethesda. It sort of bothers me because I was up there looking at it my last tour and examining it more carefully and comparing it with what I saw in Turkey and also Greece. And the religion of where you have Hippocrates and you have the idea of healing, and it's very connected to water. You're actually at the site close to Pergamum, which is probably the major center and so Israel was still not fully recovered from some of the things that occurred in Greece. And of course, there were many people that were willing to follow those things. On the other hand, the Pharisees still stayed pretty close to Torah, but they had a view that what they would do is build a wall around the law of Moses, so that if you violated some of what their viewpoints were, then you couldn't violate the law. That was their idea. They had this idea of a two-step approach, and so they didn't like the fact that Jesus actually said things that were in diametric opposition to their viewpoints. But theologically, Jesus, in many, many ways, was actually following the Pharisaic understanding of Torah in as much of his thinking theologically over against the Sadducees. So there is things going on. We have him dealing with the general people up in the Galilee, and we find him dealing with more the leadership and the theological kinds of things that were being talked about and practiced in Jerusalem. And that's where we're moving to right now. There's so much more. I mean, we need if I actually had the time and could go like 10 more sessions, I could probably get through some of them. but we're not going to do that. What we're going to do is go and try to cover as much as we can and get understanding and questions from you. So I say the later life and ministry of Jesus, and we can move on to the next one. Does it change?
It did to Bethesda.
But we can't see it yet.
Oh, I could sure fix that like that
with my hands, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
I want you to look at this very, very carefully. By the way, there's a beautiful little Roman Catholic church right by this, and the times I've been there, the fathers there were so wonderful, so great. And that's a place that we would go in as a tour group and sing in that church because it vibrated, just the beautiful sounds that came out.
Yeah.
It's a great place right by this. The white fathers, their garbs, and but that's all I'll say about them. But if you ever go there, you've got to go in the church and experience that. But see, what you're looking at here is not as obvious as we wish it were. And remember that I said that, I used to take cure groups and I walk through the city and I'd say, we're walking where Jesus walked 30 feet above.
Right.
Because everything was down there. I mean, the civilization growing and the things going on in the city. This is true not just Jerusalem, but all over the world. Things are this way. When you don't tear your rubbish down and take it out to the dump, and it just continues to grow where you are. And the only place you really see it like it was in the days of Jesus is go to the Western Wall remains, and you can see the shops that used to be covered over. You can see the distance between where you are there with the Temple Mount destructions that were the stones thrown over, and you can see where the first century level is over against the current century, and that's sort of that's interesting to see. But this right here gives you a little bit of it, and just pay attention as I go through it, because you have something at this Pool of Bethesda that's interesting. That is, you had over later centuries, gradually, you had this thing growing up, see, the land, but then they built a church at one point in an early period. All those sort of rising of stones, these are things that the church set on top of. So those were actually underneath, and the church was on top of those things. Now, if you look real carefully, you can see there is a lower area that you have some steps down there. See that? Those are steps that were down there where the water was. So when you think about the Pool of Bethesda, you have to think of two things. One is that is where the water level was that people needed to be put into. But secondly, if you move past those big, what would you call those things? Structures.
Arches.
Yeah, arches. Thank you. Arches on top where the church was. That's about where the work of the Greeks and their religion of healing by water came from. And so it's a little bit different than the way it looks now. Let's go to the next one. I think I can show you a little bit better view. I tried to find out there. That's a little bit better structure. And you can see the place on the left. That's the current level.
Wow.
That's the current level. And what you see there on the right is where you had structures there and church buildings that were set on top of that until later on they were destroyed. But you can look down into there and you can see columns in the back where people would have come in into the Pool of Bethesda. And you can also see the steps that people have walked into the water itself. Does that all make sense to you?
Yep.
Yeah, and this is sort of what we're looking at in the ancient world. You have to. That's why archaeologists, when they go digs, has anybody been on an archaeological dig besides me? Oh, good. Right down there. Okay. And it's interesting to experience all of this, because that's the reason we have to find these places, and you have to go and build an area like a rectangle, and you go down there and you dig down, because it's a real deep down where you find this stuff. The other stuff has been built up over centuries. Okay. So that's what that is. Let's move that. Now, this is a picture that somebody drew sometime. I'm not suggesting it's exactly like it looked at the time, but all they tried to show you here is that you had a high point, you had a low point, and you had the water down there. And very common. Now, not everything's that way. We're going to find, for example, some areas, like we're going to look at the Pool of Siloam, and that's where some interesting things happen. What happened here, by the way, the Pool of Bethesda? So I see if you got your Bible down a little bit.
This is where the waters moved, where the person would wait and wait, right? And
wade in the water.
No. Well, that's a particular portion of the text that said people were waiting for basically an angel to move the waters.
Correct.
The lame guy was healed, wasn't he?
The guy lied down, and Jesus told him to take up his mat and walk. And he said, "Nobody's around here to help me to get into the water to make." But there may have been a myth that was talked about. They talked about an angel coming there.
Oh yeah, churning the water.
On the other hand, you have to realize that the religion, largely dealing with Hippocrates and all of that, if you go to the site outside of Pergamon, you can look up and see the massive structure of Pergamon. I won't go into that. It's a great view. And a theater, the deepest I've ever seen. I'd hate to ever be in there and trip. I'd just go bang, bang, bang down the way. But they use water to heal people. And that's why you had to put together the water to heal the guy at the Pool of Bethesda because they're building into the same idea. That's where how the paganism influenced the Judaism a little bit. And but to get back to the issue, you have to realize that the earliest readings of the Greek texts do not have that statement about an angel moving the waters. That developed several centuries later.
Right. It just says on depending on the version, I have the ESV says that it just the guy said, "I have no one to put me in the pool when the water is stirred," but he doesn't say who stirs it.
Yes, and that's why you had somebody copying a manuscript one day, and he was tired or something or whatever was going on.
Yeah.
But he found an idea of what was moving the waters.
Right. He figured, well, it had to be an angel or something.
See, and so that's what I'm talking about. Somebody added to it in the side margin. Gotcha. Probably somebody 50 years later copying that manuscript. Remember, they didn't use photocopy machines in those days. So
what?
It was they didn't have that. I'm sorry.
But
man. The moving of that little statement may have been a comment in the side, and somebody said, "Oh, he left it out."
Gotcha. Yeah.
That's very well. What
it also says that it had 5 roofed colonnades.
Yeah, and you looked at some of those things around.
That's what you could see.
Yeah. Anyway, this is right here. We've moved to another pool. Now, this is fascinating.
Oh.
Remember the one upstairs, a guy was healed of his basically not being able to walk. This one deals with something else. Anybody knows what the healing was, the Pool of Siloam?
It was, I think, came back.
He was healed of what?
Oh, the blind man, wasn't it?
Yes. And so how does that happen? That's not an easy thing. By the way, somebody was getting on to him and saying that maybe that he was guilty of a sin that brought it on.
Oh, yeah.
And so that was dismissed later on. But anyway, I went to this place in 1993 or 4. I think it was back in there. It may have been earlier. But when the first time I went to there, but they have made a lot of improvements over the years, but they couldn't do much. Sure. What happened is a week before I got here, they actually had a bursting of the sewer system in this area.
Oh.
And they brought in people to fix this. But anytime you're at a place like this in Israel, before you can do much, you have to call in the services of the archaeological view, the group that is invested with legal authority on these things. They can close you down immediately if you're dealing with archaeology. Yeah. But they did fix this thing the week before I got there. But then they discovered something. They did not know about these steps at all. You see them there, but they didn't know about the steps. That was actually based on them starting to dig around there, and they began to uncover things. So by the time I got there the next week, they had uncovered some, but not much. But even every year that I've been there, year after year after year, for I guess 45 times, I think I've been there, and also lived there a while at a Kobe Bleak, which is a Roman Catholic group. And so what I found is that over the years, you have this gradual movement of things, but you couldn't move too much because next door to them was a Greek Orthodox group that had an apple orchard. And for year after year, they would not allow anything to happen to their orchard. And so if they could move this thing down a little more, down the hill, and take away all those apples and dig out the dirt, you would have a place that you would see more like the Pool of Siloam.
Wow.
But what's interesting is, and I don't know when exactly this happened, because I haven't been to Israel in 4 or 5 years because of COVID and everything else going on. I miss it deeply. I just love the place. But the fact is you couldn't do much. But during that time, finally somebody made a deal. Now, the Jews have at the city of David for years overpaid Arabs to move out and go somewhere. But they had to pay them enough that they could skip town and not be found out that they were paid by Jews to have their houses. You can imagine the problem.
Oh my goodness.
If you stick around and you're buying up this and you're selling your land to the Jewish people.
Yeah.
See, it's not a good move. I can tell you some other interesting things behind that because actually that was already paid for one time before the turn of the 20th century. But anyway, the fact is they moved out this group, and then they were able to move on and begin to create the Pool of Siloam as it was in the days of Christ. Matter of fact, as it was in the days of David and Solomon. Now, let's continue to look. See the shot here. You get a little feel. It's moved beyond one group of steps to another, and see how it's gone down and down?
Yeah.
But they still, when I was there last, they still had a big wall there. They had not removed, and they had just begun moving beyond the wall in certain segments. And I'll show you where they've come since then. I got a picture of that, and I thought, well, that'd be interesting. And by the way, you should know this right here. Two things are important about this location. One is if you move on the way, you would be moving west, a little southwest probably, going down from these stairs. And if you do that, you go up some stairs and you'll see a guy at a shop who wants to sell you things. And then when you go down the stairs again, you go to the exit of the pool of what? It was built by a guy by the name of, it was a tunnel through.
Oh, it's a Hezekiah?
Hezekiah?
Hezekiah's tunnel.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And they have a big sign there in Hebrew to talk about how they actually structured and did this tunnel, which is fascinating. The idea of how somehow people could start at one end, come at stone with crude instruments and nothing that you can hear from. You got one side, you're coming in this place of up where you have David's house almost, the palace. It's just a short distance south of that, going down. And then you come to the other place, which you come out of. And it talks about how this occurred. And without any kind of modern technology, they dug and dug and dug to finally and this thing talks about it that you read on the wall, that somebody began to knock and you could hear them on the other side. And all that time you're working down to try to meet each other in the middle.
Halfway, yeah.
And one group of people who were working on that were pygmies from Africa. And the other were in the Hattusi group, were about 7 foot tall. Because
my goodness.
That's all a joke. But for that, I tell that joke when I take people through here. Because the reason for it, the first portion of it is so low you have to bend over and just walk. And the second portion you finally get to about halfway down the tunnel is so high you couldn't even jump up and touch it unless you were a 7 foot basketball player. So you had this kind of thing going on. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Why did you have one group dig so low and so high? But nonetheless, they met and they finally went and came out at a place here. That's one thing you see. And that's pretty fascinating in itself.
Yeah.
And the other thing you see that's near what you're looking at right here is that they have found the actual steps. And I've walked them almost to the top, but I never went to the top. I wish I had now since I hadn't been for a while. But there are stairs that lead right to beyond what you see there before you get to that little wooden thing in the far distance there. You go up the stairs and it actually leads you all the way up to all the way to the southern temple area where you have the mikveh and the entrance to the south portion where the Alaska Mosque is. It leads all the way up to the top.
Interesting.
It's fascinating. And so a lot of things have happened there in the last few years. They're busy while we're trying to find a way to get there and not get killed.
So were those steps area there, was that filled with water or was it further down the water?
The steps you're looking at, if we go back, this actually would have probably had water up to portions of it. I would think.
Okay, about halfway up or something.
Yeah, I think portions. I'm not being dogmatic about this. I'm not sure, but I think probably water usually comes up some of these steps.
Okay.
And then so you have other steps that don't have water.
People would walk down into it.
Into the water.
Gotcha.
When I was there walking through it, it was only about knee deep. It was, but it's rushing through this kind of tunnel you're walking through, and it's very, very cold and wonderful.
You're talking about the tunnel of Hezekiah's tunnel.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm talking about this Pool of Siloam.
Yeah, he was talking about the Pool of Siloam here.
Okay, I thought he was asking about we were talking about the tunnel.
Yeah,
No.
but you are right about the tunnel. The tunnel, when you step into it from at the top of the area, when you step into that, you step into it, it's about waist deep, right? And it's very, very cold.
Yes.
Cold. And then if you, the further you get in, it gets less and less and less.
Gotcha.
Until you get out. Yeah, that's true. But right here, going up the steps leads you up to actually where the baptismal occurred. They found 31 mikveh at the top.
Oh yeah. Okay.
You have to go across the street there if you don't pay attention. But you had 31 baptismal pools, so to speak, that people used to go into the water and out of the water to purify themselves before they went into the southern portion of the temple.
Right.
The Temple Mount and so forth.
Sure.
So that was very important. But can you imagine? You got, how many was it? 2,000 or 3,000?
Yeah, at least
that was saved on the day of Pentecost.
Oh, yeah, about
Like 3,000.
3,000.
That was just men too.
Yeah, can you imagine having 3,000 people and trying to baptism? People say the scholars used to say it couldn't have happened because there wasn't enough water around to do that. But now we know there were plenty of mikveh, 31 of them, that no doubt kept water in them, and they have found water sources since. And Peter in his statements in Acts 2 actually were able to happen. Because you had the water, you had the mikveh, you had 12 apostles, and you were ready to go.
Yep.
I'm sure they didn't do it like our baptism, which, first you get 15 or 20 minutes. These things, they went in and out and in and out.
Right.
Okay. Now, getting back to this, we're going to look at some more that I've found on the internet. I wish I had pictures of my own now. But this right here shows you go down into it, but these stones in front of it would need to be removed. That hasn't been removed in this picture. So let's go to the next one. The only reason I have that is to show you where you are. This is called the City of David. David's palace at the top. Eliot Mazar, I think, is, I'm sure Don could correct me on that, but I think it was Eliot Mazar, one of the archaeologists who worked at the top of this area of the City of David where David's palace was, and it continues to come down the hill. And you can see that David, when he would go out at night, he had a very descending open area for him at nighttime. They should have built him a wall, and less problems would happen.
Yeah, really.
But this is the City of David. Now notice it comes down one side and also the other side on either side, and you have at the very bottom of this area, they call it the Valley of Hinnom or Gehenna. We would think the word hell sometimes with that, but a good buddy of mine that I've known for so many decades just passed away. I just hate it. I didn't get a chance to visit with him again in going. Gabi Berkai, Gabriel Berkai, or he went by Gabi, but I've known him for decades, and we did things together. And so he had a thing he put together down at the very bottom of the Valley of Hinnom, that you had something happen up on the temple that helped him to have stuff to look at archaeologically. Anybody know?
Wait, say that again.
I don't know if I can say it again. Okay, at the bottom of the little area that comes down, you're looking at.
Where the green area is there? Yeah.
Yeah, the green's in the middle. I'm going to talk to you about. That's where that apple orchard used to be.
Oh, okay.
But I haven't gotten back to the Pool of Siloam yet. So you get down to the bottom, and that is an area called Gehenna, or the Valley of Hinnom.
Right.
Now, that's the trash area of the city.
Right. The dumpster.
Important to know. That's the trash area.
Right. And
people would take their trash down there. But what happened at one time, it's when Begin, I can't think of his name now. He's the present prime minister. What is it?
Netanyahu.
Netanyahu?
Yeah, Netanyahu. Yes, Benjamin Netanyahu. He made a deal in his earlier prime ministership with the Arabs about, if you will let us dig into here underneath the Temple Mount, then you can have a basically a place of worship over on the other side, where they consider the places horses were. And so the problem is that even though the Arabs went ahead and built that, and I've never been down in there, but I had a good Arab friend that took pictures all over for me. But what they made another mosque. They needed another mosque up there, they said. So they put that in there instead of Solomon's portals, they call them, where they kept Solomon's horses, whatever. And what they did, they moved out a couple of hundred or more, maybe more than that, different kind of instruments where they would take out the things that were found underneath and take them down to the way. They filled up these trucks that had something that could hold the materials. And so they went down there to the bottom and they dumped all this stuff. Well, what happened when Gabi went into this, they began to find all sorts of artifacts and coins and all sorts of things that had never been found before, because they were found in that underground area that the Muslims dug out, put into trucks, and brought them down and dumped them into that area. So, Don, have you ever been over there and done that? Did you go down to the Gehenna?
Which Don? Me?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I've been to both of those pools.
Okay. Yeah, that's.
It brings back some good memories. And that church you mentioned, St. Anne's, we took a choir from Toccoa Falls, and when they sang in that thing, the acoustics are so good, you have to slow everything way down, or your chords run over each other because they're just hanging in the air.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
It's a place that a lot of people went. They took this garbage, all this stuff, they moved it to a place and they set up an entire archaeological area.
Wow.
Where they meticulously went through and used water and took the dirt off things, checking things. They found rings, they found coins, they found things they'd never found before because of the Muslims deciding to build another mosque.
Interesting.
I'm sure if they knew that would have come from it, they probably would have closed shop.
Yeah,
I think they found a lot of things too that tied the area definitely to the Jews, different well-known Jewish families, Judah families, and there were some scrolls also, weren't there, that they found?
Some what?
Didn't he also find some scrolls there?
I don't remember scrolls being found, but I could be wrong.
Like in pots or something. I just remember when we were there, the guide talking about that.
But they uncovered so many wonderful things because of that. Gabi was famous, much younger in his life. When he was at a place across from the Eastern Gate, and he was at a group of tombs, and found the Aaronic blessing on a little bitty thing that was probably for a little girl. What Pastor Faber says every week, almost, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, may the Lord bless you and keep you. And so
yeah.
So Gabi found that, and that was the oldest piece of Hebrew writing ever that had been found at that point. But
so I wonder if I wonder why it's open to the public that they allow them to dig, but I wonder if because the rubble site was so incredibly large that it was basically like free labor. Because I mean, how can you possibly go through that many tons of rubble? And there's so many artifacts in there.
I may not have explained that adequately. It's not that that's where the public dealt with. This was set aside by an archaeological society, not a group, but it's an actual organization within the state of Israel.
Right, but isn't it open to the public though, where they actually invite you to come in and you can go through some parts of it?
It is, but those things you're talking about were not found at the bottom of the Valley of Hinnom. What happened? They went down and took out some of this from each time, and they kept bringing it
They
up to a
dumped it.
area that they had. You had to go a distance away
Right.
to actually have it was covered with a tent, and they had all the tables set up,
The
and they had
sifting
people
tables.
come in and do the work.
Right.
But the people themselves didn't just walk off the street and start digging, taking it home. Okay.
That would have been interesting.
Okay,
That
let's
was-
go back. Good question, though. Thank you. We're going back. Okay.
Back to the
Let
trial.
me explain what we have here. I just want to tell you about the valley. And I'm going to tell you about some of the things that occurred and where we've been locating things. Some very good materials, but you've gone too far. Hold it back, please. Go back one. Now, if you will look at that, I pointed to the bottom, the tip. Then you have a street that goes around this way and that way. You have two ways to go. I have climbed that from the left all the way to the top to the western wall area, and I will never, ever, ever do it again. I was tired by the time I got to the top. I couldn't stand up. I started taking taxis.
Yeah.
So anyway, if you go up though where the Pool of Siloam is, they had stairs there and even things to hold on to.
Sure.
So it wasn't such a difficult situation. But if you will look at it, you've got a building to the top there, and then you've got all that green, and to the right of all of that is where you're moving into the Pool of Siloam.
Mm.
And that's where they were able to dig in and finally uncover the pool. And that's only occurred very recently.
Mm.
But they had no rights to get into all that stuff.
Wow.
Okay, so that all leads you all the way up to David's palace at the top of the area there.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Okay, next.
Yes, please. Now, this is just a little more. I'm showing you from another angle. Remember, on the other one we looked at was looking toward us. This one's looking away from us. Can you see that?
Gotcha.
So you're moving from the Pool from the Hezekiah's tunnel and getting out and coming to this.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, you would be on the other side and you would move to this to go to the place to walk up and other things. So I'm just trying to give you a direction to work with between what you would see as, let's see, what would that be? That would east and west is what we're dealing with.
So before and after.
Yeah, so you got to look a little bit and see. You got stairs. You got two groups of stairs, and then you have them on the far side. You see those little stairs, 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
See, that goes that way, and the other group goes this. They've started moving it out in this picture, but now I want to show you where they are. This I haven't even seen this myself in live. Continue. Okay, there we go. Some things have happened since I was there. They started filling it with water. It doesn't look like a really prized pool I want to get into. But nonetheless, they've been working on moving stones out and filling things. But this is what I understand. I cannot attest this because I pulled this off from a site. But if this is it, in fact, the way it is now, it looks much bigger than it actually is.
Mm-hmm.
But I was under the impression, based on where I got this, that they had now sort of filled the pool up, moved out some of there was a big wall there that they moved out, and of course it goes out sort of like a box, so to speak, away all the way to the place that they had the apples over there, and either side. So I understand it's pretty good size now, and it's a pool. Again, that doesn't look appetizing to me if I were wanting to go to a pool.
A little murky. A little on the green side.
Let me ask a question now. Besides the person who was blind, anybody else do anything spectacular at the Pool of Siloam?
Yeah.
Here.
Who was that?
Who was that?
I think it was the guy with the purple hair. Yeah, was that I think it was one of the apostles walked by him. Yeah.
Think of David and Solomon. Remember, David was getting close to dying.
He was always close to dying. You're going to have to be more specific.
Very, very good.
And you had Bathsheba begin to try to remind him of commitments that he had made. He had several sons. He had one son that was actually collaborating with a general. And
Did
hoping,
Absalom want to kill him then?
and what happened is that David told Solomon to go ahead and get on a donkey, and that's a sign of peace instead of war, and to go down to the pool of Siloam and declare himself the new king of Israel.
Interesting.
And the pool of Siloam was important for this kind of event to occur, a place of peace and a place of in which he was basically understood to be the new king. And then what happened to the other son of David, who had had this relationship with this general in some war? In other words, he was going to be the next guy in charge. He actually held the horns of the altar. Story? The horns of the altar.
Vaguely familiar.
And horns of altars don't look like Texas horns.
No. Yeah.
Pieces of an altar, and he held on to him because that was like you used to be in America. If you were a crook or whatever you were, if you could get into a church, you'd have solace. You'd be able to. You couldn't get arrested, so to speak. And so that didn't. So Solomon said, "I don't care what he's doing. Go down and take care of him." So Solomon, a man of peace. Anyway, he became the next king, connected to the place that he went to here at the Pool of Siloam.
Interesting. Cool.
Okay. Let's go on.
Uh-oh.
Pilate's judgment seat. This is fascinating. By the way, I did not go down there first. I actually had a person on one of my tours. Gary Gamacki was on a tour, and one of the other people in the department. And we had been through the Jaffa Gate, and I'd show them some things. We had just finished the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, heading up the particular steps there that there are. By the way, if you take one of the little book, if you go to Israel, by the way, if you want to go with me, I'll be going again this next year. I'm pretty sure now. Things look like they're going to clear out enough, I think. But they had what was called a certain pathway they would go on. Anybody know what that was called?
Nope.
Huh?
No, something.
The Pilgrim's Road?
No, not the Pilgrim's Road.
Talking about the Via Dolorosa.
It's taking the road of going from the Garden of Gethsemane to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned it, right? There's the Via Dolorosa.
Via Dolorosa?
Yes, right. Yeah. And it's the way of sorrows.
Right.
And it's the fact of Christ who was arrested and taken and so forth. That was actually only created about a few hundred years ago. That is not an ancient view. In fact, that doesn't fit at all the story. And I have a lot of research. I've worked on that. But the fact is, I mean, it's nice to do. People go and they pray and look at things. It's fine with me for people to do things. Just understand historically that's not the way it was going on. But you have Jesus taken eventually to Pilate's judgment seat. Now, people have argued, and I was trying to find a slide on this, and I couldn't find one. But people have argued that the place that Christ actually appeared before Pontius Pilate was the head. It was the on these northern section of these of the Temple Mount. And the places where the soldiers stayed.
Oh, like the barracks?
They call it. I don't think Pontius Pilate went to a place where the soldiers slept and ate and corralled.
No, I don't think
so. On judgments.
Yeah, I don't think so.
He has another place that we've located. But anyway, that one's gone. I don't think it occurred that way. And I think Jesus came actually another direction than what we think of in reference to ending up where he did.
Yeah, and the Via Dolorosa doesn't the Catholic Church have like the Stations of the Cross?
Yes, they have that, sure. Yeah, and they have it all connected. But it's not just that. Remember, he started in Gethsemane.
Right.
Came from this place to this place to this place. And eventually he came to the issue of the judgment, and he came to the cross and to the resurrection and so forth.
Right.
So there's ways to follow that, but much of that doesn't fit historically
Mhm.
And so I would probably not subscribe to it. But then again, I don't care if people do that. I like people praying anywhere they will.
But
Exactly.
yes, that's
It's a
where the
great
whole
thing to
Stations
pray.
of the Cross.
What
That
did
is
you
where
say?
the idea of the Stations of the Cross came from.
Yeah,
Stations
yeah.
of the Cross, yes.
Yeah.
It's, I have no problem with that.
Sure.
Now we're going to talk about the judgment seat of Pilate, and this is only fairly new.
Mm.
And so we'll look at that in just a moment. First of all, this is what I've showed you before. This is one from,
Oops. Yep.
what was that? Anyway, I don't know where that came from. We'll see in a minute. Anyway, it has Tiberius on here. It mentions his name, his position, and the emperor of the time here. And this is a historical proof of Pontius
Mhm.
Pilate. By the way, this
Mhm.
was actually found in the stairs in Caesarea by the sea, Maritima.
Oh.
And somebody saw inscription and they took it out, and that's where it was located. Because they didn't pay a lot of attention. They weren't thinking of archaeological museums in those days.
Yeah.
Just like Noah, I don't really think he was probably trying to plan for a lot of other things. And so you have this next one. We'll look at it. We'll see this.
Mm.
Is that you have a proof of Pontius Pilate first. Continue. And I've mentioned it here. You can probably see Tiberium in here.
Mhm.
He was the emperor.
Right. Right.
His name is in there. You can get most of it. Pontius is not clearly obvious, but this is in Latin now. And Latin uses a V. You can see that.
Right.
And you can pretty well make up most of Pontius Pilatus. And then you have Prefectus Uade. And you can make out some of it's missing on the left, but it's all recognizable as being a way in which you recognize leadership. And these were put around many places in the ancient world where people were in charge. Let's continue on. This is just showing you. Now here's this is a
picture.
This is a picture, but I didn't explain what kind of picture. I did not draw this in AI. I want you to know.
Oh, good. Not from a movie.
It's from a movie. I'm sorry, but the fact is, Pontius Pilate here probably was not exactly in this kind of setting, and I'll show you more in a minute. But where was the judgment actually occurring? It didn't occur in the barracks, I don't think, of the soldiers. And some have thought it occurred maybe in the place. Remember, when the emperors brought in their leadership, sometimes the kings of Israel even didn't get to stay where they were because they basically took over when they wanted to take over. So you did have Herod in several places. We've talked about he had homes all over the place in Jericho and outside of Bethlehem and you name he had some place to be. But Pilate probably took over most of the thing of a place to live in. He needed to have some fancy place, although it was very common for the people who were the Romans as well as the kings to spend most of their time on the beach with nice men and places to be, and they would actually go up to Jerusalem when they had to. But here they're up in Jerusalem. Let's continue on. Now, I'm going to try to show this to you as carefully as I can, and I've drawn these things and put circles and all this to give you understanding. The place that the red arrow goes to, you can see that, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is an area in which they found, and this occurred, my goodness, 20 years ago or more, when I started, more than that. When I almost was first in Jerusalem, walking around everywhere. This is an area that you have King Herod stuff, but it appears that Pilate would have probably occupied much of this. If you go a little to the northwest, no, that might be northeast. I'd have to think on this a moment. Anyway, there's the Jaffa Gate up there that you can go in. That actually that gate points toward the area of going to Joppa, or Jaffa, as they would say it today. And each of these gates oftentimes pointed to places like the Damascus Gate and things like that, to different cities. So down to Joppa, to the north and to the side of that That's also where they have where you get your cabs, taxis and stuff. But if you go down to where that was thought maybe as being the place that Pilate may have judged Christ.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably less so than we thought. And the movement of thought is another way. But you have to go down from there, and you see some cars and you see streets. You're moving into the Armenian section of the city. Now, the Armenians are major players inside of the city of Jerusalem. I mean, you have people that represent the Arab community, the Jewish community, but the Armenian community is very large. And you also have an section that deals with Roman Catholics. But you're moving down that way, going down, and you see another section, and it's sort of, you can't figure out what's in there, but there's a big tower portion of a wall that's no longer tall. And then you have a little indig, and then you notice behind that, this is area where cars were and also other things were. Now I'm going to show you that circle is an important area for us, because they have discovered that probably was where the area of the judgment seat of Pilate was. And I'll show more to you in just a second. Let's move on.
Gotcha.
Now, that's the entrance. Now, on either side of there, you have this structure that would have been there. It's no longer there, but that would have probably been an entrance, a gate into an area. That's how they built these things. And I'll show you in just a minute if that's true. If you go to the left there, you would be going down that wall we showed you with a big picture to the Jaffa Gate to get through. And you would have passed on the outside, you would have passed the area for the Herod's location prior to probably Pilate taking it over. So that wall, though, is not the original wall as such, in the sense that it's been built on. It was not all that way at one time. And you can look and see what was built on top of what. Can you understand that when you look at the wall?
There's distinctions.
Yes, there's distinctions. And it would have been probably brought down at some point during a war, and it would have been destroyed. But then people coming by later on over the hundreds of years would have built it up again. And so that's what you see. You actually see a wall structure on top of a wall structure. So that's what I want you to see. Let's go to the next one. Here you can see not only the side walls that would have been built up, and that was an entrance, but it's also, you can see the steps there that would have gone up, just not walking on the grass, but walking on pavement going up.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense to you?
Yep.
Keep going then.
Next.
This right here shows you part of that wall. And if you were to check that wall carefully, you'd see that some of the stones in it are not identical to the others. But you can see a place that's a buildup of stone, and you have stairs right there that go right into a wall. Continue on. And there you have it. Now, you would not build a set of stairs on a wall. You understand?
The steps to nowhere.
You don't walk to the top of those and start climbing the stones up.
Yeah.
There was an opening there, and that's the issue.
Gotcha.
And the more that we're looking at things there, it looks like that was actually an area that was used that actually had stairs that led up to something.
Sure.
And that's what people are thinking right now, that this may actually be in reference to the area of Pilate. And we're going to look at another thing.
Now, in I think Matthew and Mark, when they talk about after Jesus was with Pilate, they say that the soldiers led him away inside the palace, that is the governor's headquarters. So it had to be somewhere within a walking distance, I'm assuming.
Well, it is a close walking distance to it.
So where it says the palace.
If you go on the other side of this thing here, into the parking lot, the Armenian Quarter, and look down the street, you'll see the palace where it was.
Okay, so that's where they took him afterwards. After he
would have probably lived there, come down here for judgment.
Right.
And that's the point.
Absolutely.
It gives you a feel. There's more to be done there, but this looks very promising.
Very interesting.
Okay, continuing on then, I'm still watching the time. That just gives you an artist's reflection on how it may have been. And
Very nice.
go up the stairs, you go left, there's Pilate. You have the judgment, you
Right.
go home. Okay. So
Makes
I
sense.
just keep moving. That's the depiction someone is given.
Mm.
Let's look about the Passion and Resurrection Messiah and the Shroud of Turin a little bit. And there's all I'm going to talk to you about tonight because we have 5 minutes. And next week I'm going to go into it. Has anybody been, besides Faber McMullen? I think you went. Didn't you? I can't hear you.
To where?
Did you
Been
go
where?
to the Shroud of Turin thing?
Oh,
Yeah, I said I went before you did and told you about it.
I thought you did. I was thinking I was remembering right.
Yeah.
And there was one in Houston, and there was
Oh.
also one in Bryan in College Station here.
Yeah, this was all like a couple of weeks ago.
oh,
Yeah.
really? Oh, man.
And so what I have done, I've gone through and made a photo of every single one of the things they had up there, about 15 of them or so, that are all around the room, with all different kind of components in reference to history, science, and scripture.
Mm.
And I have worked on the Shroud of Turin material for a number of decades. I've been reading materials. And so I would think it would be interesting. We're going to talk about, however, the passion, that is the death and burial, resurrection of Christ. And part of this study, I want to show you a few things from the Shroud of Turin that might be interesting to you. I don't know if any of you have read on that or not. Are you even familiar with that?
With the shroud? Yeah.
You've heard
Interestingly, it's on the New York bestseller list right now. There's a book there by Guy Johnson.
Jeremiah Johnson did that, and I wish I had beat him to print.
He beat you,
You would
unfortunately.
have gotten a good buck on that one.
He has a book he's just done on. He was actually in the movie too, and they showed. But he 10 reasons he has, in reference to Christ.
Is that the guy that goes around went around in the on several podcasts and was talking about it? I'm not sure.
Probably.
Yeah.
It's
Place now. It's very popular to talk about.
It's brand new right now. The book's just out. It's a big
Yeah.
deal.
Probably
He
him.
was actually invited to Davos to share on the Shroud of Turin and evidence for Jesus.
Well, Gary Habermas, if you know the name,
Mhm.
has been. I've known Gary for 30 years or more, maybe longer. And he started talking about that then, and we started discussing.
Yeah.
And I started reading things on it. But it's really interesting to see where we've come with it. And this presentation sort of opens it to the public more than normally would have happened, and particularly with this new book by Jeremiah Johnson. So
If it comes to your area, and it very well may, it's worth going and seeing, even though it's not the real shroud or anything. It's put together very, very well. And Dr. House can tell you in about 30 minutes, you can just understand everything that's going on with the shroud to this point.
So is it a replica or what?
It is.
no, they wouldn't bring the shroud out. It's too expensive.
Yeah, I know. I was gonna be. I was like,
The thing that impressed me the most, they had this makeup of the crown of thorns, unlike anything I would ever imagine it to be. It was just like big hawthorns we have right here on these ranches around here, and it was almost like a skull cap of.
Yeah.
And they took those things from clues from the Shroud of Turin itself.
Yeah,
About how this was constructed.
Well,
Yeah,
next week in my last presentation on this stuff, I will cover the issue of the Shroud of Turin as part of the issues on the death and resurrection. So I just want to give you a feel for it by showing you that we're going to be going through those arguments and sort of see what are the strengths and weaknesses. And archaeologically, what is this? But it's.
Sure.
I was fairly skeptical initially.
Sure.
But I really feel that it may really be something genuine that we can actually look at and understand. So anyway, that's what we'll do next week. And I can't believe that I've actually finished on time.
Yeah.
Wow. Good timing.
Any questions before we quit? You got a minute or two.
Just out of curiosity, were Siloam and Bethesda, I know the Romans knew how to heat up their baths and stuff, and you're talking about how cold that water is. Did they heat them at all, or just let the sun do it? Or
I don't know, because I would try to pattern what I saw up there with what I've seen with the site that's found outside of Pergamum, which is the major site of the god supposedly healing, and they use water, and it was not, as far as I can tell, a heated pool. So I don't know. Of course, it's hot in Israel, like it's hot in some other places, and it may not be as needed as we think of sometimes.
And the Roman baths were distinct. There was something very, very different than the Pool of Siloam, which is more of like a big cistern, you know.
Right. Interesting.
But I'm saying that when you go to the god Hippocrates, when you go and look at that, I'm thinking I'm saying the wrong name. I can't think.
Asclepius.
Asclepius. I knew it didn't sound right.
That's all right.
Anyway, the god Asclepius, when you go there and actually see how they set it up at his major center, not Jerusalem, in the major center, they're very tied to water, and it doesn't appear to me that they had any kind of indication, because I looked around, I didn't see a place they would heat it.
Right.
So yeah. I don't know. It maybe so, but didn't appear to.
Huh.
Okay. Anything else? If not, hopefully you gained a few bits of information tonight.
Yeah.
Next week's going to be especially interesting.
Sounds wonderful. One of the things that caught me, or that I'm just kind of like fascinated again, is that we were talking about the things that they discovered by accident, supposedly, you know, it's just amazing how God just opens these things for people to discover.
In his timing.
Exactly. It's just how coincidental could that be? You know, all the coincidence of all coincidences of all these things.
Well, what I had talked about was the fascinating story to me is there was a Father Solana who came from Mexico, and he was out there to make this Hawaiian beach kind of a resort. They drilled some holes and they hit stuff 1.5 feet down, and that was Magdala. They called in these folks you're talking about, Doc, all the archaeological things. So this Father Solana now, he's the hero. And when I went there, they had a Mexican flag flying in Magdala. That was great.
And all he wanted was a beach resort, huh?
They did that when I was there. The man who's in charge of that, his name is Father Kelly. He is just a great, he's a priest, and he's a great guy. And he let us do all of our aerial shots there and didn't charge us.
Nice.
And we just have built a real good relationship with him. Father Kelly, if you meet him, he can show you around a lot of neat stuff.
I've met Father Kelly. He's an Irish speaker.
Is he? He really does, like you?
Yeah, we spoke together. We had a conversation in the Irish language.
Oh, my goodness, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Next time I tell him I did you speak to that Irish man? And he'll say, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So for next week, our topic is going to be what again?
We're going to talk about basically the death and the resurrection of Christ, and I'm going to include in this discussion regarding what we know about these events.
In the shroud return.
Right.
Thank you so much.
God bless you. I hope some of this helped a little bit.
It's great.
Well, all right. We're going to end the stream.
See you. Bye-bye now.